This radio show might make you cry, will probably make you angry, will most assuredly make you laugh, and is guaranteed to make you think. 3-6 Nation Radio, where no topic is too hot, no take is too cold, with Monica Livingston. 3-6 Nation Radio, in 3, 2, 1.
Yo, welcome to 3-6 Nation Radio, live from the Listen Vision studio in our beautiful nation's capital. I am Monica D. Livingston, founder and leader of the 3-6 Nation. And joining me today is my friend Ivan, also known as Ivan Inspired, or let's see, you're an activist, a friend,
yes,
and most recently, an actor. We're going to get a little more into that.
Secrets out about me.
We're going to find out about that later because that shocked the hell out of me. But listen, I'm excited about our show lineup today. We have Dr. Marco Clark from Richard Wright Public Charter School. He is on his way, stuck in traffic. He's not here yet.
Okay.
But he's coming. He called me, so I know he's coming. We
have director Seth Rose in the building.
Seth in the building.
He's directing a play called A Bright Room Called Day.
All right.
We're going to talk about that. If you are a fan of Nazis, stay away from this film.
If you are a fan of Nazis.
If you are on the side of Nazis, you are not going to like this play.
This is not the play
for you.
No.
Not the play for you.
All right, cool. And then we have my new friend, Tony Keith, is in the building. Shout it out for Tony.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey! Tony's in the building. Tony's going to bless us with his presence today. He's got some spoken word for us. We're also going to talk about education, mostly in D.C. and what we need to do to kind of revitalize that. So I've got a bunch of stuff for him, and I thought him and Dr. Clark would be perfect together so we could just kind of get to the bottom of this, find out what's new on the horizon. So, you know, my background in education, I'm super, super excited about that. And we're going to have some fun. What else we got?
Ooh, we have hot news. We have sports. Who's doing sports today?
Oh, Big Pat is in the building. Firefighter Pat is in the building. Hey, Pat. So Big Pat's here. He's going to walk us through. I mean, even sports is crazy right now.
There's too much happening in the world.
Like, I can't even. I'm going to let Pat handle that.
I wanted one chill week so we could just catch up with stuff. Things keep happening.
Yeah, all the time. And don't forget our new trike host, right? Because it's what does he try? Jeff the Republican.
Jeff the Republican. There?
Jeff hung up. Jeff, you went Democrat? Jeff the Republican, are you there?
Hey.
I am here.
All right. Still a Republican?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We got time.
Well, we'll let you stay. Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us again, Jeff, for week 2, man. Thanks for hanging in here with us liberals. We appreciate you being here. So that is a packed show. Party people, let me tell you, hit us up on Facebook. Tweet us. What are our social media tags here? Let's see. Facebook, 3-6 Nation.
There's an Instagram at 3_6_ nation, which is somewhere. I just discovered Instagram. You can follow things and tag people and hash things. I'm so excited.
He really did just discover it. I saw like 35 pictures in 2 minutes. That you
I was like, click, all over the place.
And also Twitter at 3-6 Nation. We're going to go to a quick commercial break from our newest sponsor, Lucky's. I think, Jacob, you have Lucky's and PCA. And then we'll be right back, and we're going to jump into news. This is 3-6 Nation Radio. We'll be right back.
Here at Lucky's, we see things differently, and we invite you to do the same. With a visual thrill of 8 high-definition screens measuring 6 feet by 8 feet, complemented by an additional 15 HD TV plasma screens at 50 inches, you won't miss a beat, play, or pitch. That's over 50 million pixels of rich high-definition action, allowing you to immerse yourself in a sports experience like no other. While you're here, if it's your appetite that needs satisfying, feast on a meal that only Lucky's can create. Prepared daily, our fresh and diverse selection of dishes are assured to please the most difficult critic. And if that's not enough, try hitting our 3,000 square foot game room and jump full tilt into the latest and greatest interactive experiences. Track your gameplay every time you return, and you can also earn exclusive Lucky's rewards. All this entertainment is backed by a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience, which is why you'll soon understand that Lucky's is more than just luck. Be sure to visit Lucky's Sports Theater at 7027 Manchester Boulevard in Alexandria, Virginia.
All right. We are back. 3-6 Nation News.
That's right.
Don't even play that music. Don't even play that music, Jacob. We're behind schedule today. All right. Oh. This is the kind of show it is. This is the kind of show, right? It's all right. That was perfect. He may even start playing it right when I start talking again. I'm nervous. Don't play the music, Jacob. Oh, okay, good.
Good. He's learning. Day at a time.
So what is your news story today, sir?
News story. There was a lot of things happening, but the number one story on my and a lot of people's lips here in Washington, D.C. is Senator Al Franken is resigning. A lot of news stories say he has resigned. He has not. He will be resigning within the next couple of weeks, quote unquote. He had a resignation speech. He said a lot of things that I thought were good. One of which was he said that people should continue fighting, and this has been one of the best experiences serving as a senator in his life, and he is disappointed on how things are going. That being said, and if you don't know what's going on, you guys, when you're done listening, Google Al Franken resign, read the whole thing, watch the video. There's a lot of talk. But the thing that I want to talk about specifically is this could not have been handled more inappropriately.
And what do you mean, Ivan?
What do I... Listen,
Do
Monica.
tell.
All right. So I said a couple weeks ago
Right.
that this was a disgrace and he needed to go.
You did.
And it was the kind of thing where we look at a problem in our country and we say, uh-oh, this is bad.
Right.
And you want to get in front of it. Okay? He did not get in front of it.
No.
He made a bad apology. And then he made a second bad apology. Then he made a third bad apology. And then he resigned with barely held contempt.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If he was smart, and again, and I'm not blaming him because it's blindsided him. He's been doing this his whole life, right? He's built up to this place.
Yeah, this was news to him. Okay.
When
That
you
people
know,
didn't want-
it's true.
You're like, who I grew up? Wait a
When
minute.
you know, I didn't.
She liked it.
When you have that situation and the public opinion is a wave, a tsunami crushing down on you, you can do two things. You can look at it and say, I didn't do that, and you can get smashed, or you can sit down and you can surf with it and you can ride it.
Sure.
And he knew, I knew, everybody knew that this was coming. He looked at this and said, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to deny, I'm going to apologize and deny, I'm going to deny and apologize and deny again. And now he's going away. And his political career, I'm going to predict, is over.
That's
and it's
dead.
over because he looks like a fool now.
Right.
If he would have come out and said, you know what, I was wrong, these things, it was, I was a citizen, and now there's this abuse of power things, and it's absolutely right. We need to hold our elected officials to a higher standard, and I'm going to be the start of this movement.
Right.
And if my people want me back in 5 years or 4 years when the next election comes, that is on them. But no one who abuses power should be in a position of power, and I am stepping down because of that. That is a strong statement.
You doing the Ivan-inspired rant.
I'm sorry, I'm calm. I'm calm.
The
That's
hell is your
news.
question?
My question is, does anyone
Everybody
have
watch CNN
any...
today? What?
My question is there hope for Al Franken?
Oh, this ain't even gonna take long. We're gonna get back on schedule. No. No. Okay. No, there's no hope for him because, like you said, he handled it poorly. But aren't we sick and tired of people that are supposed to be in power just abusing that power, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, most of us, anybody with some common sense, Moore still has some supporters that don't care, but
They don't care.
I would like to think that we are moving to a time in our culture where we're like, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. So I hope he's washed up. I hope that there's no way that he can return. I can see him doing some stuff where he's going to, Ray Lewis said he'll probably join some kind of
Think tank.
Yeah, no, some like
association.
victims, nonprofit where he now talks against groping and who knows? But he should just go away and
Mothers
play
Against
golf
Presidential
with
Hands.
Matt Lauer. That's what he should do. They should just get together. Matt's got plenty of money. He got $21 million. Him and Al could just split that and sit around playing golf and looking at people they wish they could grope.
Talking about the good old days.
Right.
I can remember back in 2004.
Remember that one? I touched her.
Oh,
Lord
do
have
anything
mercy.
you wanted. There's a celebrity. They let you do it.
You just go and grab them. Okay. Yeah. So no, Jeff, what do you think about Al?
Well, I think you're right. I think he's all washed up, and he handled it very badly. And I think a lot of that happened in a time where that was almost the norm for entertainers and people of power to abuse that power. And now it's coming back and biting them.
Yes, it is.
And that's easy for you to say, Jeff, the Republican. Any Republicans that you want to follow Al and do the same thing? Oh, I don't know.
There's several of them out there. Roy Moore has taken on a lot of heat, and the thing about
so
Roy
the
Moore
girls
is
he touched. But go ahead.
yeah, he's it's kind of weird that it all happened 40 years ago, and there's nobody that's come forward in the last 5 or 10 years.
Ooh, Jeff, you're wrong.
In my opinion, a degenerate is always a degenerate.
That's true.
And so you would think that we would find somebody, and it may happen yet,
Well,
that'll
there
come
have
forward
been a lot of
5 years ago or 10 years ago that he did the same thing to, and if that happens, I think he goes away.
Well,
And so
it was first of all there was one story,
Right. Get him, Ivan.
and then there was a second one,
Right.
and then there was
A third one.
Now the third one, and the signed
Right.
yearbooks, and everybody in his office was like, yeah, he was banned from the mall.
Yeah. When you get banned from the mall, like when you trying to give out tokens at Chuck E. Cheese and they like, listen, you just
We
can't
appreciate
eat.
your
Right.
and
You got-
we don't
What,
Yeah,
Jeff?
what I find odd about it is that it all happened 30 or 40 years ago, but there's nobody that's come forward in the last 10 or 15 years. What's he been doing for the last 30 years?
He's been getting off on a different kind of power.
Well, the girls got
Like,
older.
yeah,
Maybe
I
he's
don't
still
know.
grabbing them. They were 15
That's
when he
just-
started. 30 years now. They'd be about his
Yeah,
age, and so that's who he's grabbing now.
Surely somebody would come forward that he had done that too in the last 10 or 15 years.
When we talk about abuse of power, right? Because I don't think this is a sexual thing. I think there's some sexual elements to it, but when
Right.
you are talking about an adult doing sexual things to children, when you are talking about celebrities randomly groping people,
That's the worst kind of evil.
these
in my
are
opinion.
these are people who are using their power to get off on that. And now
Yep.
we made him a judge, and then he went and he defied the Alabama State Supreme Court. Right? He was held in contempt and removed from office twice. He's still getting his power and his abuse of power thrill. He's just getting it differently now. I don't see those
How do you end up running for Senate? You'd think that somebody would have stopped him before now, but
Well,
Yeah,
sometimes they silence
tried.
people. I mean, they have, and that's the thing about power. You can easily silence someone. People come forward all the time. I mean, Bill Cosby is another example of, when things were squashed because you have the power to do so. Somebody writes you a check. You start rethinking where you touch. Does it really matter? I joked the other day.
Exactly.
I said Matt Lauer can grab me all day long for $21 million. I mean, I just be like, Matt, come here, Matt. Hey, Matt, I love you, Matt. I mean, like,
day and night.
but I also want to be careful, and I want to say this, and we joke a lot on the show, but I think the serious element of this is that if you are abused or taken advantage of in some way, I don't think that you get to say you must tell someone within a certain time frame. I'm sure that
I agree.
everyone, I mean,
Yep.
and Jeff, I want to challenge you to think about something that happened 30 years ago, that if you put yourself in that place right now, it still would conjure up some
Yep.
feelings of,
Right.
distress, whether it was something
Without
your
a doubt.
parents did or whatever. Go ahead.
Without a doubt, and I don't mean to minimize what he did. What I'm saying is, it's just odd to me that we haven't seen somebody that's come forward recently, and that may still happen.
Right.
It is a
So
a
Trust
crazy
me,
world. You're
bad
absolutely
feelings
correct.
never go away.
True.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your story. Jeff,
Jeff,
what's
talk
your
to us.
story?
My story. I'm going to talk about the people in Loveland, Colorado, that the gay couple that had a guy refuse to make a cake for him, and this hits close to home for me because I'm not very far away from Loveland, number one, and number two, I've got 2 gay sons, and one's getting married next summer, and I guess I've thought about how I would feel, and it's gone all the way to the Supreme Court, and it's an amazing thing that 20 years ago this would have never happened.
Sure.
It would have just been pushed under the rug. but now we actually have people that are listening to the people in the gay and lesbian community. And I think Monica and I have talked about this a little bit. You know, I had an epiphany with my sons when they both came out. I was the kind of guy that would, my kids are never going to be gay, and now they both are. And
I want to let me interject for a second there. I want to tell you, Jeff. I love Jeff. First off, I love Jeff for being as conservative as a Republican and willing to participate in this, because we've been looking for a conservative and they were just running, and he hit me up and we couldn't get anybody.
I'm a little more centered than most Republicans.
Right, I know. I took an ad out on Craigslist and all I got was hate mail. Like nobody, like they don't really want to show up, right? And so when I got Jeff was like, "Sure, I'll do it." And then we're talking, and Jeff is conservative Republican dude who is in Nebraska. You don't get any more he's a white dude, Nebraska, been married to the same lady for what, 30-some years?
32 years.
He ain't never groped nobody but her. I mean,
Do you live on a farm, Jeff? I haven't gotten to know you very well. Do you live on a farm?
No, I actually live on a golf course.
Oh, you real one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're really white. Oh, you can't believe how white I am.
But my point is, so then Jeff and I were talking, and he admitted that he wasn't, particularly gay friendly in the beginning, and then his one son came out, and I joked with him. I thought, well, God's trying to teach you something, and then he wasn't listening, and God said, let me tell you this. Your other son. So he got two gay sons from Nebraska. Yeah. Okay. That's what it took to bring this brother around.
Are they still in Nebraska?
Absolutely. What's that?
Are they both still in Nebraska?
No, one's in North Carolina. The other one is in Nebraska.
Excellent. Okay.
So, yeah, and we're gonna have a gay wedding at the golf club here next summer, and that'll raise a few eyebrows.
When you think about this cake situation, how does your personal experience play into what is also a political conversation?
Oh, it's funny that I don't know the gay thing is so much political as it is religious. Mm-hmm. And, I think the politicians understand that they're going to have to accept that, because there's more people coming out than ever have before, and they feel comfortable doing that. And but trust me, I've had some conversations, especially with my youngest son, about religion and politics, and he's liberal, but we still get along, and we can still talk about other things. We haven't got past the political thing yet, but it's a tough situation out here, because the majority of your friends are Republicans, and I've got some that are really staunch Republicans. And when I tell them my sons are gay, I get the silent treatment for a few minutes, and then they're like, "Oh, well, I guess that's okay."
Well, yeah, I appreciate you, brother. Listen, hang out on the phone with us today. Dr. Clark has just walked in the building. Everybody in the studio wants to welcome Dr. Clark.
Dr. Clark.
Hey, he had to get here by plane, I think, from that's the traffic from 8th Street for Richard Wright Public Charter School. So we are happy that he's here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a commercial break. We're going to come back with our community spotlight segment, and we're going to talk about education.
Yes.
That's the thing that we've been firing up to do this, and he told me about a month ago he would grace us with his presence. He's here. My man Tony Keith is here, so we're going to get into this. And Pat, firefighter Pat, is coming at this, Big Pat, that does sports for us, is coming at this from a different angle, because he coaches at a high school. He's over at Wise. So I think we're going to have some multiple perspectives here, and let's just talk about it, because that's how we get better. That's why Jeff is on the phone with us, because although he's a Republican, he's a white Republican dude with two gay sons, so we love Jeff. Right? So this is 36 Nation Radio. We'll be right back with a community spotlight. Jeff, hang out with us.
All right, we'll
do it. Take care.
Come on, hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
Are you even trying? The ball's down there. What are you doing? You need to get some confidence.
Come on, hustle up. Get up there. reviewing last year, ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on, get your head on straight.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
There are many ways which we can improve.
That's for sure. You need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Their development zone is a great resource for parents like us. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people. Learn more at positivecoach.org/Fox Sports.
I love how USAA gives me the peace of mind and the security just like the Marines did. At one point I did change to a different company with car insurance and I was not happy with the customer service. We have switched back over and we feel like we're back home now.
The process through USAA is so effortless that you feel like you're a part of the family.
I love that I can pass a membership to my children and that they can be protected. We're the Williams family and we're USAA members for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
We are all
Champions.
We are all
Red Hawks.
Red Hawk.
For life.
Our staff, coaches, and student athletes welcome students of all races, religions, genders, sexual orientation, and national origin. We advocate and support the LGBTQ community.
We play.
Together.
We win together.
If you can play,
You can play.
At Montclair State University, if you can play, you can play.
if you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
It's about respect. Respect for our teammates, respect for our fans, and respect for our game.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. On this team, we're a family.
Racist, sexist, and homophobic language have no place on our team.
We pledge to make our locker room a safe place for everyone.
No matter your race, religion, or whether you are straight or gay, if you can play, you can play.
Come on, hustle, 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 hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
Are you even trying? The ball's down there. What are you doing? You need to get some confidence.
Come on, hustle up, get up there.
All right, we are back. Are you serious right now? Okay.
I just want to give them something to come back to. That's all. I just want to make it just a little bit.
This is our community spotlight segment. We have to be serious for this particular segment here, okay?
We've got a lot of good guests today.
We do. We have a lot of good guests. Hold on. This is the Education Summit Talk, part 1 of 100. Let me put my glasses on so we're talking about education. Do I look like Dr. Clark now?
Yeah. I like it. You know, there's a parallelism.
I don't have any lenses in mine now. These are 3D glasses.
That's what happens when you have cheaters, right? You don't even notice at first, and then.
So anyway, I'm gonna introduce Tony Keith Jr.
I'm gonna introduce
here.
Mr. Clark.
Okay, and Tony is a poet, an educator, and he likes to call himself a nerd. I'm down with that, though. I think of myself as a nerd, too. Let me tell you something. Nerds out here getting it, okay? you better recognize. I don't even want everybody to know that, because then everybody going to be pretending to be a nerd, right? But nerds out here doing their thing. So anyway, Tony is a accomplished poet. He's going to perform, actually, for us today, so I'm really excited about that. We're going to talk to him also about his newest gig, because he has several. He does a bunch of different things. But his newest gig is with the Future Project. Is that right? The Future Project. Excellent. And it is doing really inspiring things with young people, changing up education. You know, as a former student that had ADHD back in the day when it wasn't diagnosed, and I just was doing my own thing in class because what they were teaching was boring, and and I was supposed to be the class clown, but I was running stuff really, and so I'm always passionate about any opportunity where young people can learn differently and truly, excel and be successful for, their God-given talent. So I'm excited to talk about that. And then my man, Dr. Clark, is in the building.
Sitting right next to it, Dr. Clark.
That's what inspired by the glasses right here.
I love it.
Tell the people about
Marco
Dr.
Clark. Dr. Marco Clark is a well-respected educator, innovator, author, public speaker, and veteran of the world of urban education.
Yeah.
What? So I'm looking through your bio, and it says that you were a spelling bee champion at 10.
I was a champ.
And then at 11, you were labeled functionally illiterate.
Yeah, by a crazy guidance counselor.
The juxtaposition of those two labels is so telling for the state of American education.
Misdiagnosis is what's happening across the country.
Every single day.
Yes, it's happening all the time. I mean, behavioral issues, lack of parenting. Educators, a lot of educators are not really, at that particular time, really diagnosing kids appropriately.
Right.
And so a lot of kids are suffering because people haven't taken the time to really check in and see what they really know or modify their teaching or styles in order to accommodate the child.
And now you're the CEO of Richard Wright Public Charter School?
Absolutely.
Where is that exactly?
That is on A Street, 770 M Street Southeast.
Excellent.
At the corner of 8th and M.
All right.
Perfect. And Big Pat is sitting over there. We can't forget Big Pat. Big Pat is our new sports guy because Sean, where'd he go again? Some little gig he has.
Apparently he's in Minnesota.
Doing what? I
What's
forget.
in Minnesota?
Minnesota Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
Yeah, he left us for the NBA. But whatever. He think he fancy now. Okay, so Pat's helping us out. Pat is also a firefighter, so thank you for your service. And he's also a basketball coach. So I thought that Pat could join us in this little summit here also because he's coming from, a different perspective in terms of really the athletic side that happens with schools and what the students need on a different level. So let's get into some questions. I've got a question for, let's see, some of the people who tweeted this at me here. Oh, I know. Okay. So, Tony, realizing that education reform in America, especially tackling the inequalities, is a complex and entrenched issue. It's a complex and entrenched issue. What are your top 2 or 3 ideas or areas of focus for change?
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you know who sent that to me.
That is a complicated
you already
question.
know who sent that to me.
I think I do know who sent that to you. So we're talking education just sort of like nationally, right?
Yep.
And especially when it comes in terms of inequality, I think the first thing that's super important that I think is necessary to talk about is we must talk about racism in education. We must talk about disparities of learning and opportunities to grow between black and white students. That's a real thing. I think that's one. I think the other thing that we need to talk about is the kinds of student engagement opportunities that are necessary, which shout out to my brother here on the right with this dope, school that focuses a lot on artistic expression and young youth engagement. And probably so many other things. I won't steal your thunder. That's 2. And I think the third thing, it sounds ridiculous, but I think that there needs to be a stronger emphasis on coaching students to do careers that they're going to be passionate about, which they might not always get to learn about inside of schools. And I think it's something about directing them in different ways that may not be a traditional 4-year education. I mean, college degree. Right. It could be electricians or plumbers or artists or painters, and I think we need to do more of that. So
okay, all right, I like that answer. Ding,
Big
ding,
fan
ding.
of that.
Sheesh.
A little shout out to Job Corps right there.
Did you just plug yourself?
I did not. You can find out more about it. No, but I do have a question for you following up on that. You'd say we want to talk about racism in education. Yeah. If we are starting from scratch, what does this system even look like? I was walking down the street from here to U Street, which is 10 blocks. And I've passed 4 conversations from random people talking about racism, racial confusion. People are arguing on the street whether or not this restaurant caters to these people. I don't even know what that would look like in a education system to say there's too much racism. It's part of our fabric.
Yeah, so it is a part of our fabric. So to that point, I don't necessarily think that we can erase it. I think that it would be wrong of us to erase it. I think that what we have to do is acknowledge the fact that especially the histories of people of color have been missed in the curriculum and textbooks in schools. It's just been missed. And so I think that it's a matter of, one of my favorite researchers, Gloria Ladson-Billings, calls it the education debt, right? This idea that we've been owing students of color all kinds of opportunities since slavery ended, right? And so to your point, I honestly think it's erase it. But if we were to start from a place, the conversations need to be about things like this. 83% of the educated workforce in this country is white, right? 56% of public school population demographics are kids of color, right? So when you have these mismatches, that creates this curriculum, this environment in education that is very white and very hegemonic, which again is not necessarily bad, but it's discounting the narratives and important things of kids of color. So I think that the conversation needs to be more about the stories that are taking place inside of communities about race and the ways in which students are experiencing racism in schools. Because when you have, 60% of the curriculum in schools is, like, at least English language arts is old, dead white men. I mean, how are kids of color supposed to engage with that? You know what I mean? That's the way racism works. I think it's a matter of addressing those kinds of things. Yeah.
Damn.
I'm enjoying this. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
So let me ask Dr. Clark a question. So speak a little bit to charter schools, because there's this there's a belief system that charter schools can kind of break down a community by or forcing school closures, neighborhood school closures, right? So how do you still, if you have a charter school, how are you making sure that you're still strengthening that neighborhood? Can you speak just a little bit, to that?
Well, I mean, I think it's important. Any school that's in any community has to become a part of that community. And so, I think it's a misnomer when people want to divide, see a difference between a charter school and a traditional public school, because they're both public schools. We both serve the same kids. And so I don't know this ideology that, a kid goes to a charter school that they're different. They're not. They're the same children. The only thing is that we've been able to have some, we've exchanged accountability for autonomy. So we have more autonomy, but we have more accountability than the traditional public school. So when we see, charter schools close all the time because the accountability is so high, we say we demand that those traditional schools have the same type of accountability system, and then you won't see schools failing.
Right.
And so then the reality is that with that accountability, we know as a charter school, just like my school, we're in the community. We're doing safe passage for our kids. We're doing workshops in the community. We're allowing the community to bring their kids in to read and to have library time with toddlers inside of our building. When you are a real vibrant school, no matter whether you're public or traditional public or charter, you're going to be open to any and every idea that's going to help change the community, period.
So there's room for both.
There's room for both.
I've got 7,000 teachers screaming in my ear right now. My earpiece is just going off the chart. When you talk about the differences in accountability, can you be more specific on what the public school system traditional is lacking, or what extra things that the charter school system has to go through that makes that a better system in your mind?
When you look at, not in my mind, but in reality, because in reality is this: when you look at the scores came out back in October, and you saw a district-wide traditional public schools and charter schools. If you looked at the percentages that are where kids scored on the state assessment in traditional and public schools, you realize that those charter schools are tiered. So they are tier 1 being the best, tier 2 meeting the standard, tier 3 being the worst. And so there's no tiering system with those traditional public schools, and so a school could score 0 on the assessment and still be open. Right. Charter schools, they will not happen. That will be an accountability system that will shut your doors.
Very
and
true.
So what we're saying is that we serve the same kids. That if your burger is as good as mine, then then nothing to complain about. But if it's not as good as mine, then you should have the same accountability system as we have. And if it doesn't work, close your doors as well.
All right.
When we talk about closing schools, though, there is a guarantee. Sorry, I'm speaking to the microphone. When we talk about closing schools, though, there is a guarantee that children need schools, right? There needs to be access in all parts of the city. And so if I go to a place where there is a school that exists, right, this is the staple, and then other schools come in, charter schools come in, they are pulling resources away from that school. They're pulling resources and students away from that school.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. No. So let's look at it this way. When Burger King opens up on one side of the block and McDonald's is there, nobody complains.
Right.
What happens is one has to just get better, or they have to remain good, so they'll both remain open. competition, that's the way I look at it. If yours is that good, then what are you complaining about? Let's just say that is the case, and that you say that we're stealing resources from other schools, which is not true, because we're still serving the same kids. And remember that the dollars follow the kid, not the school. And so a school may have been in a community, but it's a relic now. It's a relic. It's not producing what it did in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. And so just because grandma went there and your dad and your mom went there doesn't mean it's the same school that it was years ago. And so now there's a different thirst. Things have changed. 21st century technology, you can't do things the same way you did in the 20th century. And so we have a new way of thinking. I mean, look at the way that we're doing television now. Look at the way that we're doing broadcasting.
Right.
It's much different than it was. And so there has to be room for growth. And if you're that great, then what are you complaining about?
Perfect. Let's get Big Pat in here for a second. Pat, from an athletic standpoint, what are you seeing as some of the needs that the kids that are lacking? Are they talking about, I mean, well, let me put it this way. Is sports still filling a need more than just competition?
I think the onus on that is actually the coaches that you have. Our program, we base ourselves on academics first.
Okay.
We're highly successful athletically, but the academics is where we start. We have a preseason program before we even start our season, basketball season. So in the preseason, we have every day is study hall, and the study hall is an hour and a half. We have a daily progress report that the teachers have to turn in on the students.
A daily one.
Daily.
That's accountability.
Yes,
Wow.
and we hold the teachers responsible just as much as the students. The student athletes have to maintain a 2.0 to be eligible to play. We actually make sure they have a 3.0.
Okay.
In our standard, and that's just because myself, the head coach, we've all played collegiate basketball. We know what it takes to get in, and you have to have 14 core classes. Can't just be taking gym all day or anything like that.
Right.
So we make sure that the students are aware of what they need to be successful. And I think you have a lot of programs where you just got a basketball coach and all they're doing is rolling out the basketball and that's
Right.
it. I mean, we just had this weekend we had a lock-in, and in that lock-in is a team building type thing. So we sleep overnight at the school.
Okay.
But before we have all the parents come in, we have a big dinner, then parents go home, and it's just the coaches and kids. We talk about a lot of things to build the kids up, for manhood experiences that we've had. And we got like 10 coaches on our team between varsity and JV. I mean,
right.
We have everything. So after that, we go out. We went to Sky Zone, let the kids play, a lot of energy in the stuff building. Then we come back. We have video games. They got everything set up that they can play. And then, you sleep, of course. We get up. Then we go to a church service in the morning just to basically bless the season.
Right.
And we have a spiritual aspect of it as well. So the kids know this is not just basketball. It's more of a family and it's more of a culture. And you have kids that actually see that and they build upon that. We had one kid last year who's he was one of the ADA kids y'all will call. He always have to take longer on tests and stuff like that. He was over my house one day, and my son was a senior too, just like him, but not at the same school. My son was doing his homework, and this young man was doing his homework as well. And he got finished like super quick. And I was like, Duran, you sure you finished everything? Yeah, I finished. And his grades weren't really that high. I mean, they were lacking because he was
because he hadn't finished.
Right. Yeah, 88. So I look at the computer to see what he's looking at, and he's looking at a lot of basketball stuff. So I'm asking him like just questions about things, and this dude is like rattling off like stats and everything, and it's just like, I mean, he didn't even have to look this stuff up, and he's all this stuff, and I'm like, if you can remember all this stuff, how come your school's not like that? Because it's not an interest.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to realize, that these kids have to be interested in stuff. It's not because they're stupid or anything like that. They are smart. It's just an interest, and if you can find that interest, that passion. Look, statistician is the way you can go. Since you can rattle off all these stats, let's get into this aspect of it and find somewhere where you can actually go and thrive off of that.
Listen to me.
Absolutely.
This is why I call this the Education Summit Part 1 of 100.
Yes.
If we could have started this at 4:30, and we're gonna have every single one of them back. We've got to move forward, but I'm gonna give you guys
have to move?
each. We have to, man. I mean, we got Seth still in the building. We've got stuff to do, but that's okay because look,
Nazis.
I'm gonna guilt them into coming back. Give them their whole show. They can sit. Look, we'll switch places with them. They'll sit here. We'll sit over there next. But I want to give them each 30 seconds to answer this question. So I'll start, Dr. Clark. What is going on with you next? I know you've got a speaking tour. Talk briefly what that's about, where you're going to be, and then give Richard Wright a shout out and talk real brief about what Richard Wright does. And then we'll do the same thing with Tony, and then I'm going to ask Pat to talk about the toy drive.
Okay. I'm on a 10-city tour of education. I'm going to be traveling across the country as far south as Atlanta, Georgia to University of West Georgia. I'm kicking off the King holiday piece that I'm doing there. I'm going to be at Clemson University in the spring talking about different things. And I'm also going to New Hampshire and kicking off their charter school week with their state board, a state capitol building, and setting that off. And so I'm just excited what we're doing at Richard Wright. You know, Richard Wright, we're in the middle of our middle states accreditation. We're going to finish up, so tomorrow we'll be awarded that accreditation. Right. So we're excited about that. Right. And, you know, the way we do it at Richard Wright, if it ain't Richard, it ain't right.
Tony, what you got coming up?
I have no idea how to follow something like that. So,
tell us about Future Project, your new gig, man.
So real quick, I serve as the Chief Dream Director of Innovation for Washington, D.C. with the Future Project, which is an incredible title. So essentially, it's a movement where you're unlocking the potential and possibility and passions of young people in high schools across the city. Actually across the country.
Right.
So there's Future Project New York, D.C., Philly, Chicago, etc. So I'm the chief here. So it's my job to make sure that dream directors who work inside of high schools, shout out Roosevelt, shout out Eastern, and shout out Cardozo.
All right.
Dream Giants. Anyway, it's my job to make sure that those dream directors have what they need and that passion to unlock the passion of the young people inside of their schools. So there's that. I'm also about a year and a half away from finishing my PhD in ed leadership and administration, my man.
Yeah.
And the dissertation is on spoken word poetry engagement in public schools, and that's what's
all right.
And I just published a book.
That's right. You did just publish a book. Okay. Sure. And Pat, talk about Pat is also not only a coach, but I told you guys he's also a firefighter. Thank you for your service. You've got this toy drive coming up. Where can people give him information about that?
Yes, I'm also the president of the Black Fire Service Professionals of Alexandria, and we are an organization to just make sure that all the minority families in Alexandria are taken care of. We do stuff all year round. We just got finished doing our turkey drive. You know, gave a bunch of turkeys out to needy families. Now we have a toy drive that we do every year. Is at 1108 Jefferson Street, 1 to 4 p.m. December 23rd. We have over 100-something kids will be there. We got over 100 bicycles that will be given to these kids. We got over 200 Happy Meals that McDonald's is donating. And this is, 3 hours of fun, games, activities. And then, we have a Santa come out, and he comes to give the presents out, and then they all get their bikes and roll out.
Sweet. All right. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. We're going to come back with Seth. I want you to look at this camera view right here. 3 black men. 3 black men sitting here doing their thing. And so many times we see on the news 3 black men in a row, it looks a lot different than this. But this is what we do. This is how we do. I see you over there with the sign of the frat brothers over there, dude. He going to start stomping in here, stepping. We're going to come right back. I need a 30-second commercial. We're going to come back, and Ivan's going to talk to Seth about the play that you're going to be in real briefly. And then
I didn't tell nobody I was going to be in a play. You just let it out.
Okay, we'll be right back. It's 36 Nation Radio.
I love how USAA gives me the peace of mind and the security just like the Marines did. At one point I did change to a different company with car insurance, and I was not happy with the customer service. We have switched back over and we feel like we're back home now.
The process through USAA is so effortless that you feel like you're a part of the family.
I love that I can pass a membership to my children and that they can be protected. We're the Williams family and we're USAA members for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play,
you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
We are all
champions.
We are back, 3-6 Nation Radio. There is a lot of explosions happening right now. I love it. We are sitting here with director Seth Rose, who is working with St. Mark's Players in Capitol Hill, directing Tony Kushner play, A Bright Room Called Day.
Yep.
Talk to me about, tell me about this play, what's going on, how did you get involved with this?
So I've been working with St. Mark's, their local theater in the Capitol Hill area. I've been working with them for a couple years. It's the second show I've directed for them. Bright Room Called Day. It's by Tony Kushner. He did Angels in America,
which is about AIDS.
It's about the AIDS crisis. Yeah. And Bright Room was actually written around the same time, a little bit before. So height of the Reagan '80s. Tony Kushner, he lost a lot of friends to AIDS. It was a very bad time for a whole lot of folks. And it's about fascism. It takes place in the twilight of the Weimar Republic. So like right before Hitler gets elected, and then it goes to a little bit after.
Hooray!
But it's about it's very slice of life. It's about a group of Germans who just like how they react to it, how their relationships to politics at the time, and kind of like how they deal with fascism and the rising of it.
One of the things that yesterday, I don't know if you guys are watching the news, yesterday President Barack Obama comes out and mentions the rise of fascism.
Yeah.
We are dealing with unprecedented times in America.
We are, yeah.
How does the parallel of what's going on in the play and echo what's happening politically in America?
So it's an interesting. There's definitely a lot of interesting parallels. In the one of the director's notes that Tony Kushner writes in one of the first editions I read, and it actually basically exists also as one of the monologues in the shows. Is talking about the idea that we hold up the Nazis and fascism as this like ultimate evil, like the gold standard of evil, and like they're it's justifiable,
they did a good job.
They really got to that gold
standard. If you are trying to measure evil.
If you're trying to measure it. But because we're at that, because we've established that so strongly, it's almost like we can't even use it, It's like when you call someone a Nazi, it's like, oh well, they're not like really a Nazi. It's almost it becomes so ubiquitous that it's almost unusable. And this happens both on the left and the right. On the right, you've heard anybody get called a feminazi. Like it's difficult to actually reckon with what the Nazis were. And I think what the question the show is trying to handle is how do we recognize how things happened in the past, the mistakes of the past, while also recognizing how our current situation is different. Because it is. It's not, the parallels are never going to be totally 100% the same. And how can we recognize the parallels in things that are happening now without just being like, oh, Trump's a Nazi? That's such a that's almost a useless statement.
Jeff, are you still on the phone? Good. I didn't want to. When we think about the Nazis, right? We have this giant, mustachy, evil view of it, but we also have this thing that's happening today where we have the alt-right, we have neo-Nazis, we have just people who are extreme anti-fascist, anti-fascist. We have all kinds of different groups. Are they? I mean, do we just lump them together and say like they are deviations from the norm?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's on us as people who, generally want to fight against fascism is to be specific, is to recognize the common strains of stuff without again just like writing everybody off as the same, because I think that it changes our response. I think the response to the alt-right is different from the response to like people flying literally Nazi flags, is different from the response to we want to get more Democrats elected. It's how we conceive of these different groups changes our response to how we respond to them. And I think that was, being in the show, like they talk a lot about like how at the time in the Weimar Republic they really weren't able to like, hash those things out and see how the Nazis differed from different other groups, and that let the Nazis just kind of
Here's last question. When we are fighting. I was on Facebook the other day, and someone looked at, what was going on. They said, we need to be more violent towards these Nazis. We need to go and smash them. And that's one of the, in the play, that's one of the positions that people take. Like, we should have been doing more. We should have been standing up, but we didn't, and now it's too late.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that is the correct position to be taking politically, but then the question is, I guess we have to see the play. What is the right thing to do in that moment?
I don't think there's any one answer is the thing. I think there's a lot of people saying it's like, well, it's either violence or not violence, but there's a whole spectrum of
engagement.
I guess engagement is the word. It's not just we always need to stand up in the streets.
Awesome, thank you very much. Give us, where can we see it? When is it? What are the dates? Go.
Opens January 13th. It's the last 3 weekends of January. St. Mark's Episcopal Church in. It's by the Capitol South Metro stop in Capitol Hill, and you can Google St. Mark's Players, and it'll come up, and you can find the Facebook.
I didn't tell people I'm in it.
He's in
it's
it,
so much fun. It's really great. Awesome. We're gonna close out with Tony. Gonna come up here and give us the poem. 1 minute. We are out. Next week we're gonna start with Tony. Throwing down a poem. We said he would be back. This is 3-6 Nation Radio. Everything is great. So much love. Thursday Night Tea with Anthony, Monica Livingston, all of the people. We fade into the distance like an eternal.